A drunk miner thought he had cleared his gambling debt when he pushed his 20-year-old daughter across a saloon floor. But the rancher who paid the debt looked past every man in that room, looked straight at her, and said 6 quiet words. "You don't belong to any debt." For 3 seconds, nobody in Red Ash breathed. Outside the Iron Kettle Saloon, Marin Hart stood under the boardwalk awning with rainwater dripping from the brim of her bonnet. She held a small carpet bag against her ribs. Inside were 2 dresses, a cracked comb, a tin of sewing needles, and her mother's worn prayer book. That was all she owned that could be carried. The rest had been spent, sold, pawned, or lost by her father before sunset. Red Ash sat low in New Mexico territory, where the mesa wind carried red dust into every window crack, and men measured luck by how much money they could lose before supper. That night, the saloon smelled of wet wool, lamp oil, cigar smoke, and cheap whiskey. The card table near the stove had drawn a crowd because Silas Hart was losing loudly. He had lost his week's wages first, then his mule, then the silver watch his wife had left him. By the time the dealer turned the final card, Silas was laughing with the ugly sound of a man who had found the bottom and decided to dig. "That covers nothing," one gambler said. Silas wiped his mouth with the back of his sleeve. "I still have something worth taking." The crowd expected land papers, a wagon, a tool chest. Silas pointed through the window. "My go." The room went still in a way laughter never does. Marin heard it from outside. Not the words first, the silence after them. She turned toward the open window, and her whole body seemed to understand before her mind did. Silas kept talking. "She can cook. She can mend. She can read accounts better than the clerk at Moffat's store. 20 years old, strong hands, no husband, no claim on her." He said it the way men describe livestock. Across the room, Jonah Mercer sat alone with a cup of coffee cooling beside his elbow. He was 39, broad-shouldered, weather-cut, and known in the valley for 2 things: never raising his voice and never paying for what he did not intend to own. Silas saw him watching. "You need house help at Starling Creek, don't you, Mercer?" The name moved through the saloon like a hand through smoke. Jonah's wife had been dead 4 years. His ranch had children in it, but little laughter. His fences leaned. His foreman ran too much of the business, and lately, men whispered that Starling Creek would not survive another hard season. Jonah set down his coffee. The gambler leaned back. "If Mercer pays, I'll call the debt finished." Marin's fingers tightened on the carpetbag until the seam bit her palm. Inside, a leather pouch hit the table. Not tossed, placed. The sound was quiet enough to shame the whole room. Silas blinked at the money, then he grinned, as if the world had finally agreed with him. Jonah stood, took his hat from the peg, and walked outside. Rain tapped the awning above Marin's head. She did not step back. She had nowhere to step back to. Jonah stopped 3 feet from her. For a long moment, he only looked at the carpet bag in her arms, not at her face first. At the bag, as if he understood what it meant for a life to fit inside one worn handle. Then he lifted his eyes. "Miss Hart," he said, low and careful. "I paid a debt tonight." Marin swallowed. Yes, sir. But not yours. The men gathered in the saloon doorway. Someone muttered. Someone else laughed once and stopped. Jonah turned his body just enough for them all to hear him. You don't belong to any debt. The words were not loud. They did not need to be. Maren stared at him. For most of her life, men had spoken around her, over her, about her. Nobody had ever spoken her free in public. Silas staggered to the doorway. Now hold on! She's part of the settlement. Jonah did not look away from Maren. No. She was your excuse. The rain grew steadier. Jonah nodded toward his wagon. I'm headed north before the wash road floods. If you have kin, I'll take you to them. If you don't, there's an empty room at Starling Creek until you choose your next place. No conditions? She asked. No. No wage taken from me? No. No promise owed? Jonah's answer came slower then. Only that nobody under my roof gets treated like property. Behind him, the town had no reply. So Maren Hart climbed into the wagon with her carpetbag in her lap, and Red Ash watched her leave, as if a verdict had been read over every porch and window. They rode into rain that silvered the desert grass and turned the road black beneath the wheels. Jonah did not fill the silence with questions. He kept one hand on the reins and one eye on the arroyo crossings. Near midnight, when lightning opened the hills for a breath at a time, he stopped beneath a stand of cottonwoods and gave Maren his slicker before he spread a tarp under the wagon. She was too tired to refuse kindness politely. The next morning she woke to sunlight on wet sand and the smell of coffee boiling in a blackened pot. Jonah handed her a cup. It was bitter, burned, and the warmest thing she had held in months. By noon, Starling Creek Ranch appeared beyond the low hills. It was not the grand place Maren had imagined when townsmen spoke Jonah Mercer's name. It was worn down by honest use and dishonest neglect. The main house sat under two crooked cottonwoods. The barn roof sagged on one end. The windmill turned with a complaint in every circle. A line of cattle moved like dark stones across the pale pasture. Everything looked alive. Nothing looked safe. 3 children came out before the wagons stopped. The oldest, Caleb, stood near the corral gate with a pitchfork in his hand and suspicion written across his face. He was 15, tall already, with his father's shoulders and none of his father's patience. The younger boy, Toby, ran straight to the wagon, then remembered manners halfway there, and slowed so suddenly his boots skidded in mud. The little girl stayed on the porch. Her name was Ruth, 7 years old, dark hair in 2 uneven braids. One fist closed around the sleeve of a faded doll. She looked at Maren once, then looked at the floorboards as if being seen hurt. Jonah climbed down. "This is Miss Hart," he told them. "She'll stay in the east room for a spell." Caleb's jaw tightened. "Is she working?" Jonah looked at his son until the boy dropped his eyes. "She is staying." That was all he said. The east room had a narrow bed, 1 small window, a washstand, and a latch that worked from the inside. Jonah set her carpetbag on the quilt and placed a key beside it. Maren stared at the key. He noticed. "Door sticks in damp weather," he said. "You'll want to lift before you pull." Then he left without stepping farther into the room. No bargain, no warning, no hand closing over hers. Just a door, a key, and the strange ache of being allowed to decide when to open either one. The first days at Starling Creek taught Marin what grief sounds like when a family has forgotten how to speak. Breakfast was plates, chairs, and silence. Supper was the same silence with lamplight around it. Jonah worked until his shadow disappeared into dusk. Caleb worked beside him without asking to be thanked. Toby followed Marin as if curiosity were a chore he had been assigned. Ruth watched from corners, doorways, and the staircase, then vanished whenever Marin smiled. Marin did not push. She cleaned where cleaning was needed, mended what could be saved, cooked plain food, and did not apologize for it. At night, she sat by the little window in the east room and listened to coyotes call beyond the creek. On the fourth morning, a bay mare came up lame near the north fence. The nearest horse doctor was a day and a half away. The mare trembled every time she set weight on her front leg. Caleb said she would have to be turned out and hoped over. Marin asked for warm water, clean cloth, and a strip of old canvas. Caleb snorted. "You know horses now?" She did not answer him. She ran her fingers along the tendon, found the swelling, and wrapped the leg with a firm hand. "My mother kept livery horses before she married," Marin said at last. "I listened when people thought I was only sweeping." Jonah heard that from the fence rail. He said nothing. But the next morning, when the mare took 3 steady steps, Toby shouted the news through the kitchen like church bells. Caleb did not apologize. He did, however, leave a bucket of water outside Marin's door before dawn. It was the first peace offering he knew how to make. Weeks passed. The rain left. Heat came back. The mesa grass dried into gold. Marin found work no one had asked her to do because unattended things called to her. A loose hinge, a torn shirt, a child who could not sound out a word, a ledger piled in a crate beneath dust. The ledger was what changed everything. She found it after Ruth spilled molasses in the pantry and Marin pulled crates from the shelf to clean the floor. Behind sacks of meal sat a wooden box of invoices, receipts, and feed orders tied with baling twine. At first, she meant only to sort them. Then the numbers began to bother her. 3 shipments charged, 2 delivered. A hay payment entered twice. A cattle sale recorded lower than the buyer's receipt. One pattern might have been carelessness. 2 could have been bad luck. A dozen was theft wearing clean handwriting. The signature appeared again and again. Elias Crow, Jonah's foreman. Marin knew the name before she knew the man. Everyone on the ranch deferred to him. Elias assigned the riders, checked the stock, handled supply runs, spoke to the bank, and brought Jonah papers to sign when Jonah was too tired to ask why. When Elias rode in that afternoon, Marin understood why nobody suspected him. He had a good face for lying. Sun-browned, easy smile, silver at the temples. A man who remembered children's names and shook hands with both of his. He tipped his hat to Marin like a gentleman and called Jonah old friend within the same breath. Nothing about him looked like danger. That made him more dangerous. Marin kept the papers hidden, not because she was afraid of Elias Crow, because Jonah Mercer looked like a man who had already lost too much to be told carelessly that a trusted friend had been helping finish the ruin. So she watched. A receipt missing from the tack room, a steer count that shifted between pasture and sale yard, A private meeting at dusk between Elias and a rider from Rusk Mesa, the neighboring spread owned by August Rusk, a man with polished boots, smooth manners, and too much interest in Starling Creek's water rights. By autumn, Marin had enough proof to know the ranch was not failing. It was being bled. And bleeding is easiest when the wounded man thinks weakness is his own fault. At the same time, the Mercer house began changing in ways no ledger could measure. Toby learned to read without tracing every line with his finger. He brought old newspapers to Marin and sounded out words by lamplight, proud of each one as if he had branded it himself. Ruth began sitting closer, then close enough to hand Marin buttons, then close enough to whisper. The first word Marin heard from her was not hello. It was again, after Marin finished a story too soon. Caleb changed last and hardest. He still bristled when Marin crossed the yard, still measured her as if she might take something from the house that had already lost its mother. Then one evening, Marin found him outside the barn trying to hide a split knuckle. He had missed the hammer and struck his hand against the rail. She cleaned the cut. He hissed through his teeth but did not pull away. "My mother used to do that," he said. Marin tied the bandage. "I'm not your mother, Caleb. I know." His voice was sharp, but his eyes were wet. She tightened the knot gently. "I'm not trying to be." That was the first time he looked at her without fighting what he saw. Then came the storm season. In late October, black clouds gathered over the western mesas with a greenish edge old cattlemen never ignored. The air changed first. Still, heavy. Birds low to the ground, horses restless in their stalls. Jonah stood at the barn doors and watched the sky. "The south herd's in the draw," he said. "If the wash floods, they'll be trapped." Nobody argued. Riders saddled in a hurry. Rain hit before they cleared the gate. By noon, the sky had folded down on the valley. Water roared through the arroyos. Lightning walked the ridges. Men came back in pairs, soaked and shouting over the thunder. Then Jonah counted the riders. Once. Again. Caleb was missing. For a moment, the whole yard lost shape. Jonah reached for his saddle. Marin grabbed a coil of rope from the post. "No," he said. She was already tying the rope across her shoulder. "You don't know the old wash trail. I do. I followed Ruth there gathering mesquite pods last week. It's flooding. Then you need someone who knows where the banks break." Rain ran down Jonah's face. For once, his calm cracked enough to show the fear underneath. "Marin, your son is out there." That ended the argument. They rode into a storm that turned the world to water and noise. The trail disappeared under red mud. Twice Jonah's horse stumbled. Once Marin had to dismount and feel for the edge of the wash with her boot before they crossed. Near dusk, they found Caleb's horse wedged against cottonwood roots, reins tangled, saddle empty. Jonah made a sound Marin never forgot. Not loud. Worse. A father's breath breaking before the rest of him did. Then Caleb answered from below. He had slid into a cut-bank shelf above the roaring water, one shoulder twisted, boots dug into mud, too cold and too proud to cry out, until he heard his father's voice. Marin tied the rope around Jonah's waist. Jonah went down over the bank. The rain hammered all three of them. The creek tore at the earth beneath Caleb's feet. "Look at me!" Marin shouted to the boy. Not the water! Me! Caleb looked up. His face was white with pain. Jonah reached him, got the rope under his arms, and Maren pulled with everything she had. Her palms burned through the gloves. Mud filled her sleeves. The rope cut into her shoulder. But inch by inch, Caleb came up. When Jonah finally dragged him over the bank, he wrapped both arms around his son and held him so fiercely, Caleb stopped pretending he was not a child. They spent the night in an abandoned line shack while rain struck the roof like thrown gravel. Caleb slept wrapped in blankets. Maren fed the fire. Jonah sat with his elbows on his knees and his hands folded like he was holding himself together. Near midnight, he spoke without looking at her. My wife died in a storm. Maren kept still. The creek rose. Fever came after. I kept thinking if I had moved faster, ridden sooner, noticed more. His voice thinned. But grief teaches a man to blame himself, because the dead can't answer. The fire popped. Maren stared at the flame. My mother died waiting for my father to become the man he promised to be. Jonah looked at her then. No pity, no fixing, just recognition. Across the shack, Caleb's eyes opened. He listened from the blankets, hearing two kinds of loss meet without taking anything from each other. Morning came pale and washed clean. They rode home with Caleb leaning hard in the saddle, and Starling Creek appeared under a broken sky. Then they saw smoke. Not storm smoke. Barn smoke. The supply shed behind the barn was half burned by the time they reached the yard. Neighbors had formed a bucket line. Toby's face was streaked with soot. Ruth clutched Maren's skirt and shook without making a sound. Most of the horses had been saved. The winter feed had not. Jonah stood before the blackened beams and did not curse. He did not shout. He took off his hat and held it at his side, and somehow that was harder to watch. Because fire does not need to finish a ranch to ruin it. It only needs to burn what winter was counting on. That night, when the children slept, Maren laid the papers on Jonah's kitchen table, one by one. Altered invoices, false feed orders, cattle receipts, bank notices, private payments tied to Elias Crow. And beside them, 3 notes written from August Rusk's office, all circling the same prize: Starling Creek's water. Jonah read until the lamp guttered. Maren waited for anger. It did not come, only a long silence, heavy enough to change the air. At last he said, How long have you known? Long enough to be sure. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because a man can survive bad news. Betrayal needs proof. Jonah looked at her across the table. For the first time, he seemed to understand that Maren had not merely been sheltered at Starling Creek. She had been guarding it. Winter came hard, not with deep snow, but with scarcity. Feed had to be bought at poor prices. 2 horses were sold. Repairs waited. Jonah dismissed Elias Crow in front of 3 riders and did it without raising his voice, which frightened the man more than shouting would have. Elias denied everything. Then August Rusk stopped denying enough for both of them. By spring, the fight moved where all frontier fights eventually moved when money wanted a clean face: the county land hearing. The hearing was held in a drafty hall behind the Red Ash courthouse. Ranchers came for business. Bankers came for influence. Townspeople came because public humiliation cost nothing and lasted longer than a circus. Marin almost stayed at the ranch. Jonah found her in the kitchen, folding towels that did not need folding. "You coming?" he asked. "It may go easier if I don't." "No," he said. "It may go quieter." She looked up. Jonah held her gaze. But easy and quiet are not the same as right. So Marin went. The hall was crowded when they arrived. Benches creaked, boots scraped. Men removed hats and immediately forgot to behave better. August Rusk sat near the front in a dark coat that had never known barn dust. Elias Crow stood behind him, pale but still trying to smile. For the first half hour, the hearing was numbers, maps, brands, and water lines. Then Rusk turned it. He stood slowly like a man giving the room time to admire him. "Before we take Miss Hart's accounts as Holy Writ," he said, "perhaps the board should know how she arrived at Mercer's ranch." The room shifted. Marin felt it before she heard it. That old hunger in a crowd. Rusk smiled gently, which made the cruelty cleaner. "Isn't it true, Miss Hart, that your father handed you over in this very town to pay a gambling debt?" A whisper moved across the benches. Marin sat still. Rusk stepped closer. "Isn't it true you left Red Ash in Mr. Mercer's wagon with one little bag, and no lawful arrangement anyone can name?" Toby started to stand. Caleb caught his arm. Rusk looked at the board. "Forgive me, gentlemen, but if Starling Creek's defense rests on a saloon girl's gratitude—" The chair scraped so hard it echoed. Caleb stood first, not Jonah. Caleb. "She pulled me out of a flood," he said. His voice shook, but it held. Toby stood next. "She taught me to read the bill of sale Rusk tried to hide." Ruth stepped out from behind Jonah's coat. Her small hand found Marin's. "She made the house quiet good," Ruth said. No one laughed. Jonah rose last. He did not face Rusk. He faced the room. "The night Marin Hart left this town," he said, "most of you watched a drunk man call his daughter Payment." The hall went dead quiet. "I paid money because I knew what men like that do when nobody stops them. But I did not buy her. I could not buy her. No decent man could." Marin could not breathe. Jonah placed a stack of papers on the table. "She found the theft that nearly cost me my land. She proved the feed contracts were false. She saved a horse I would have lost, a boy I nearly lost, and a house I had been letting grief empty room by room." Rusk's face hardened. Jonah's voice remained steady. "So if this board wants to question her worth, start with the truth. Starling Creek is still standing because the woman this town called a debt knew how to read what the rest of us were too proud to see." That was the moment Red Ash changed its eyes. Not all at once. Crowds rarely repent quickly. But shame moved through that hall until the whispers died under it. The board reviewed Marin's ledgers. The bank clerk confirmed the altered accounts. A freight driver admitted 2 missing deliveries had been redirected to Rusk Mesa. Elias Crow left the hall before the vote, and did not come back. By sundown, Starling Creek kept its water rights. August Rusk kept his coat buttoned high and his mouth shut. The ride home should have felt like victory. It did not. The children slept in the wagon. Jonah held the reins. Marin watched the dark road unspool ahead of them and felt the whole day settle into her bones. Rusk had lost. But he had spoken the part of her story she feared would follow her forever. That night, long after the house went still, Marin packed her carpetbag. The same 2 dresses, the cracked comb, the sewing tin, her mother's prayer book. She wrote Jonah a letter by lamplight, stopping often because some truths are harder to put down when leaving is the lie wrapped around them. She thanked him for the room, the key, the work, the children, the way he had spoken to the hall. Then she wrote the sentence that made the ink blur. "You gave me a name in that room, and I am afraid staying will cost you yours." Before dawn, she left by the north road. Jonah found the letter after sunrise. He read it once by the kitchen stove, then again outside the east room, where the bed was made too neatly, and the key lay in the center of the quilt. For months, he had told himself gratitude was not love. Need was not love. Protection was not love. But fear has a way of teaching a man what he has already chosen. He folded the letter into his coat pocket and saddled his horse. Caleb met him at the barn door. "You going after her?" "Yes." The boy nodded. "Good." Jonah looked at him. Caleb shrugged. "We were all waiting on you to catch up." Marin had not gone far enough to disappear, but she had gone far enough to test whether anyone would follow for her sake alone. She stopped at the little schoolhouse near San Mateo Crossing, where Widow Bell needed help repairing torn primers and sorting donation books. It was quiet work, respectable work. Work a woman could do without bringing a ranch into town gossip. On the 3rd afternoon, Silas Hart found her. He came into the schoolyard smelling of whiskey and road dust, hat crushed in one hand, anger in the other. Children stopped their reading. Widow Bell stepped into the doorway. "There you are," Silas said. Marin closed the primer in her lap. The old fear rose by habit, then found no place to stand. Silas jabbed a finger toward her. "I hear you're sitting on Mercer land and Mercer money. You owe me." "No," Marin said. The word was calm enough to frighten him. "I'm your father." "You were." A few townspeople gathered near the fence. Silas looked around, embarrassed by witnesses and hungry for them at the same time. "I gave you your chance," he snapped. "If I hadn't handed you over, you'd still be carrying crates for pennies." Marin stood. The afternoon wind lifted pages from the school table. Children's letters fluttered on a line where Widow Bell had hung them to dry. "You did not give me a chance," Marin said. "You gave me away because you could not see my worth." Silas opened his mouth. Marin stepped closer. "And that is the last thing you get to give me." For once, her father had no speech ready. The man who had gambled with her life stood in a schoolyard full of small children learning how to spell, and there was no place in that light for him to look large. He left smaller than he arrived. When the gate clicked shut behind him, Widow Bell touched Marin's arm. "Your mother left something with me years ago." Inside the schoolhouse, she brought out a cedar box tied with faded green ribbon. The letters inside smelled faintly of lavender and dust. Marin knew the handwriting before she read the first line. Her mother had written about a place she dreamed of finding, a little ranch with cottonwoods near water, a kitchen where children could be noisy without fear, a porch facing evening light, a life not borrowed from any man's temper. Marin read until the page blurred. All that time she thought she had been running from the life her father ruined, but piece by piece, she'd been walking toward the life her mother had imagined. When she looked up, Jonah Mercer was at the gate. Neither of them spoke at first. The distance between them held everything they had not dared to name. Jonah stepped down from the saddle and removed his hat. "I read your letter," he said. "I meant what I wrote." "I know. That ranch finally has a chance now. Your children do. You do." He nodded once. "That is why I came." Marin looked away. Jonah reached into his coat and pulled out the key from the east room. "You left this." "I don't need a room, Jonah." "No," he said. "You don't." He held the key out on his palm. "I was hoping you might want a home." The wind moved through the cottonwoods. Marin looked at the key, then at him. What if the town keeps talking? It will. What if they remember how I came there? They should. His answer surprised her. Jonah's eyes softened. Because I want them to remember wrong and see right. Every time. Months later, under a blue desert sky, Marin Hart married Jonah Mercer beside Starling Creek, where the water ran clear over stones and the cottonwood leaves turned silver in the wind. There were no grand flowers, no polished carriages, no crowd large enough to pretend it had always believed in her. Caleb stood beside his father with a new steadiness in his face. Toby carried the rings in a biscuit tin because he trusted tin more than pockets. Ruth read one verse from Marin's mother's prayer book, her voice small at first, then stronger, then clear enough for the creek to carry it. Widow Bell cried openly. Nobody minded. Years passed. Starling Creek did not become rich in the way men brag about in saloons. It became rich in quieter proofs. Cattle wintered through lean years. The ledgers stayed honest. The porch filled with boots, books, mending, laughter, and children who no longer vanished when grief entered the room. Above the kitchen door, Jonah hung Marin's old carpetbag on 2 iron pegs. Beneath it, Caleb carved a small wooden sign. It did not say rescued. It did not say paid for. It said, "The day she came with nothing, she brought us back everything." And in time, people stopped telling the story as the night a drunken father lost his daughter. They told it as the night Red Ash learned what a human life was worth. Not because a rancher paid a pouch of coins, but because a woman who had been treated like a debt became the proof that no person's value can be measured by the people who failed to see it. Marin Hart Mercer was not a wager. She was not a burden. She was not the shame men tried to hang on her name. She was the name on the gate.